Hi guys, rise and shine. We grind. We are all fine, and the sun shines for yours and mine. My name is Tyrone, and welcome back to my show. Um, Today, I want to talk about communication and understanding. I wanted to get on to this topic because communication and understanding is important. It is an important part, two important parts of every relationship. But it's important for people who want to communicate. There are people that we definitely have to set boundaries with, and that we definitely have to understand that their side of the story is not the best side of the story. And sometimes we have to stop our communication from certain people. And that's when the discernment comes in, the God given discernment comes in for knowing who to communicate with and who not to communicate with. I want to get past the definition for communication, which I feel it would be verbal connectivity. It could also be it can be two or more people adding verbal perspectives to gain a form of apprehension, gain a form of understanding, because communication is built off of understanding, but it's also built off of many other things. Um, I feel the most important thing throughout communication is being able to being able to understand that there are different forms of communication. You know what I mean? Just like we have different emotions, there's different forms of communicating. Sometimes we communicate within, you know what I mean, uh, a low tone um, communication or connection. Sometimes it could be high tone. Sometimes it is based off of the emotions or the actions taken within that conversation. Um, I feel that communication definitely helps. Like I said, with different forms of understanding, it can also help with release of memories. Because sometimes we need to vent. We like to vent to people, and communication wise, venting could be one form of communication that is definitely beneficial, especially when it comes to conflict that arises within our lives. And with that, and it also helps us with a better approach to certain situations. It helps us to sometimes we might be conversating with one person, we might get advice from that person, and that person might say, hey, don't do such and such when conversating during it makes you reevaluate. It makes you reevaluate a certain conversation when you touch up on it. It helps you better solve problems when it comes to certain situations, and it better helps you find a solution. Um, and communication is also built on trust. It's built on um, or it builds trust. Because within communication, when you're able to tell somebody a specific thing about yourself, or somebody is able to tell something about themselves, it makes you feel good that you can be able to trust somebody with your word. It makes you feel good that you're able to create a better relationship built off of telling each other different types of things that you can't trust with other people, but that you entrust with that specific person. And that's why communication with anybody is special. That's why they always say to spend your time, your energy, and everything else wisely, because there are some people that are just vampires, just energy vampires, and it's important for you it's important for us to discern and use our discernment for people who just want to feed off of the energy and not actually come up with a form of understanding. there should be a 50-50 when it comes to communication, or when it just comes to a relationship in general. And in order to build a relationship, communication comes. But there's also something that builds a relationship as well, which is understanding. Understanding is something that it can be hard for the majority of people that, have a problem with relationships. But when you learn how to communicate, there is a form of understanding.
Coming.
Excuse me, that was my little brother. Understanding, to understand is to comprehend a perspective of yourself or others. It can be a perspective of yourself or others, but understanding, excuse me guys, it's built off of, understanding is built off of patience, is built off of being able to identify what you might be going through, and trying to find a solution, but also trying to find out what somebody else might be going through, especially in terms of communication. It helps us better evaluate what might be going on, what might that person be feeling, and how can we develop a strategy to, how we can develop a strategy to fix it. To understand is to accept and to grasp one's perception of reality, and not just yourself. Understanding is definitely one thing that, excuse me guys, understanding is definitely one thing to understand is to accept and to grasp one's perception of reality, and not just yourself. Excuse me if I said that again. But when I say that, I say that to say it's important for us to be able to not only understand ourselves, but to be able to understand different perspectives of what a person might be going through. And that is when we're not learning just from that person, but we're learning for ourselves as well. And that's when we start to gain knowledge. We start to gain wisdom on specific things. Even if a person is mentioning it to us through conversation, we begin to understand what that person might be going through. And sometimes within that understanding of what that person might be going through, we wind up finding little pieces that help us with our journey, especially if we pay attention and we learn to listen. I feel that understanding is built off of a solid foundation of communication. Is built off of two ideas or it can be built off of two ideas or more being shared, and accepting ideas that can help both parties. Understanding is not only just about oneself, but it's also about helping everybody. Especially when it comes to a form of communication, you want to find out what's going on with not only just yourself, but everybody. It helps. Understanding and communication helps us in terms of beneficial empathy. It helps us become a little bit more empathetic when it comes to certain situations, and it helps us. When you're empathetic, it helps you sense that emotion. It helps you be able to understand what that person might be going through. And it opens your mind, like I said earlier, to different forms of knowledge and wisdom. When you're able to understand, when you're able to cultivate a form of apprehension, you're able to understand that there are certain things that, or you're not able to understand, you're able to learn more. So you're able to learn understanding. Excuse me. You're able to learn how to understand. And I wanted to touch up on these two because communication and understanding, they come hand in hand. You need understanding in terms of communication, and through communication there should be understanding, and communication is one of the many things that links to a better relationship, not just with the one that you love, but with everybody. And so does understanding, because understanding comes in many different forms. Sometimes we need to understand where the most angriest person came from, just to be able to find a solution as to, just figuratively stating, just to find out a specific understanding. And when it comes to communication and understanding, or asking for better communication and understanding, always go to God. That's what I recommend, is always going to God, because going to God is going to direct you into the areas of your life that you need to focus on when it comes to communication, or when it comes to understanding. And that is when you'll be able to develop better relationships, or just better relationships, better forms of understanding in general, And I hope that this video could have been a blessing to you guys. If it was, please leave a thumbs up, and please comment and share if you can. I love you guys. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and see you on the next one.